All right, so we are going over forces of flight. I've got it listed for you there, right next to me. Lift, thrust, drag, and weight. I want to start with lift. Well, let's look at lift. Let me get in front of this microphone here. Okay, so I want you to look at the diagram that I have of a wing. So on the front of the wing, right here on the front of the wing, is referred to as the leading edge. The leading edge is the piece of the aircraft, the wing, the front of the wing, the leading edge, that first attacks the wind. Okay? So when the wind hits the wing, it splits. And because of the airfoil design of the wing, the air splits and breaks, forcing the air on top to travel over the top of the wing, and the air on the bottom travels underneath the wing, and it remains pretty much in a straight, steady course. It's the air on the top that gets broken, or we can call it arched, however you want to imagine that. And when that happens, and you can see that demonstrated by the holes that are in these arrows here, the air on the top side, because now that it's arched, creates gaps or extra space. It's less dense. So you have a less dense air across the top of the aircraft, and then a denser air on the bottom. So lift, the theories of lift, and we'll jump into theories of lift in another video, but simply put, the theories of lift says that from a higher pressure, which is on the bottom, a wing will move upward into an area of lower pressure. So that's what lift is. By there being higher pressure on the bottom, lower pressure on the top, there's an upward motion called lift. That's what lift is. Okay, we'll talk more about the two theories of lift in another video. Let's talk about drag. All right, so back here on the back of the tail, you have drag, and so we have it written back here, but drag is really occurring on the front. It's just a backwards force. So I want you to imagine you're driving down the road, and you stick your hand outside the window. And if you stick your hand outside the window with the flat side of your hand towards the wind, you'll feel the pressure of your hand and arm wanting to move backwards. That's exactly what drag is. You could probably feel a little bit of lift by taking that flat hand and turning it on its side, and now the wind will begin to travel. And if you go in there and just tilt your hand up just a little bit, you'll actually create lift as the air on top becomes less dense, and the air from the bottom of a higher pressure starts to move, and your hand will actually start to lift. So you can kind of feel and see what drag and lift look like both from your hand. Then we're going to talk about weight. Weight is probably most easily described as gravity. It's that opposing force of the weight of the aircraft towards the gravity. So if I was able to take a big airplane and reach outside the window with a smaller airplane and open my hand, that airplane would, without a motor, drop all the way to the ground. It's an object without thrust, without lift, and the weight will overcome, and gravity will bring that object straight to the ground. So all of our aircraft are going to be fighting or opposing weight. And so lift opposes weight. Now that's the same for drag and thrust. I told you about drag. You got to feel it with your arm out the window. Now let's discuss thrust, because thrust is the opposing force to drag. And as you can see here in the little image with the airplane, you see the propellers, the motor. And that propeller and motor creates thrust. So through a powered device like an engine, you create a forward motion which opposes drag. So with enough forward motion opposing drag and enough attack angle on your wings, you will create lift and you will be able to fly. So that's going to be the main things that you'll be tested on the Part 107 license when it comes to lift, thrust, drag, and weight. And I'll just pop one piece in here and show you on the mini helicopter kind of the same thing. Lift occurs, and since we don't have wings, our leading edge is actually here on the propellers, and each one of the 4 propellers are creating their own lift, and the motors that are keeping them spinning around are creating a downward thrust. That downward thrust will raise the quadcopter, and of course if the motors turn off, then the drone will drop because of weight. Okay, so lift, thrust, weight, and drag, primarily all you have to remember is those four forces, lift opposing weight and thrust opposing drag, for your Part 107.